We are live with Lunch Break Live. What are you making today?
Hey guys, it's Alba Mendez Chang from SoFlo Vegans. How's everybody doing? I have a bouquet of kale.
Yes, let's get cooking. I guess you're making some delicious stew. And we got the Veg Nurse in the house. Take it away.
Woohoo! So right now what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be chopping up a little bit of onion. This is a sweet yellow onion that I really, really like. I'm not a big fan of onions, but the recipe does call for it. So what I am making is a chickpea with kale stew. This is very easy for me to do just because I do a lot of meal prepping once a week. I am a very busy nurse, and with the COVID situation, I don't have the energy to cook. I don't have the energy to make meals every single day. And this recipe that I found on the internet that I kind of made it my own kind of helps. And long story short, with my trainer, I also have to do meal prepping. My trainer, if you guys are not aware, is Tori Washington. He is an animal in the gym, and I gained 30 pounds during COVID. Adding on top of that, before COVID, we were doing a lot of restaurant tasting. I am the media coordinator for SoFlo Vegans. So that means that when we get called a lot, before COVID, obviously, I was going to multiple restaurants or multiple events tasting people's food or anything like that. And I just ended up ballooning up a little bit. And because I'm on camera so much, it's like I didn't look good. So I reached out to Tori and I asked him, hey, can you help me out? And he did. And I'm only allowed a certain amount of macros a day, except on Saturdays. I look forward to Saturdays. I can have whatever I want that day. So what I'm doing now, I am heating up my pan right here with a little bit of oil. You can add about maybe 1 tablespoon or so. I am making a whole batch. The recipe calls for about 2 to 2.5 cups of chickpeas. Now with chickpeas, if you are a busy mom or busy whatever your career is, I prefer to do everything from scratch. So long story short, prior to this live, I went ahead and grabbed the bags. I pre-soaked the night before and I went ahead and cooked them. It does take a while to boil. You can use cans if you prefer, but I prefer to do this. So this is about 2.5, almost 3 cups right here. And this should last me for the 3 days that I have to work. So as this is warming up a little bit, it's like I mentioned, it's about 1 tablespoon. I don't use a lot of measuring cups because I kind of already have it in my head after doing this. I typically do this meal twice a month or so, just to like break up the monotony. So I kind of already know what a tablespoon looks like. So I'm just measuring. And if you need more, you can always add more as we heat up the pot. And this is about half an onion. Half an onion could be about half a cup. And I do use a lot of cups now. I have to measure everything that I put in my body because of the workout that I do. And we have here organic garlic as well. I try to make my food as much as organic as I can. There's a big misconception that I hear all the time with my patients or with my coworkers that it's like, oh, organic food is so expensive. Fun fact, and you can verify this yourselves, anybody who eats more of an omnivore diet, they spend between $2,000 to $4,000 more than somebody who's an organic vegan like I am. Meat costs a lot of money. Now, with this organic garlic, this one has no oil in it. And I usually do, again, I don't use measuring teaspoon because I kind of already know what it is, but this right here is about 1 whole tablespoon. I love garlic. And you just put it in here with your pan and everything just cooks. I love using wooden spoons. So I just move it around. I don't know if you guys can hear that sizzle through the camera. And you just want to sizzle, 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 sizzle. And this is creating like caramelized onion.
Yes, we can hear. Welcome to
Can you hear the sizzle? Okay, good.
Sizzle. Thank you so much for joining us here on Lunch Break Live. We have a question for you from Betty Ann Cornwall. Can you use other beans? She's curious. Can you use other beans for this stew?
I'm not exactly sure because this is kind of like an Indian-inspired dish. But I mean, sure, why not? I mean, black beans, sure. Go ahead. Let me know how it goes. I haven't tried it with that. I'm not from the Caribbean, so I'm not used to black beans or red beans. In Peru, I'm South American. I was born and raised there, and I'm also of Asian descent. So we really don't have that type of bean. So I'm used to a different type of cuisine. But please, if this seems to work for you, then let me know, and I guess I can try it. I mean, I am from South Florida, so we have a lot of the Caribbean, Cuban, Dominican, it's inspired cuisine here. So let me know.
Okay, well, this is so exciting. And Tom, who's a regular all the way from Chicago, wants to know, do you help your patients go vegan?
Okay, so I do get a lot of questions about that, and I don't talk about my veganism. It's actually my coworkers who do, because when patients come in with heart attacks or they come in with strokes, so sometimes the heart attack is still awake while we are trying to, well, the doctor, not me, tries to open up their arteries for whatever reason, and they want to know what's going on. And I'm like, well, try to eat less meat, try to eat less dairy products. And then my coworkers are like, oh yeah, Alba knows what she's talking about because she's vegan. She knows what we're doing. And then they look at me. I'm not, I guess, the stereotypical, which I think has moved a long time ago, that the stereotypical vegan was skinny and sickly and frail. And I'm not sickly and frail. And I lift a lot. And they get to see that veganism is not something about being sick, but it kind of gives another option to just the medication route. The lifestyle change can also help with my heart. So that tends to go. I mean, I give the patients, if they're willing to listen, books to read by some great doctors that we love, like Dr. Joel Kahn, for example. We've interviewed him before on SoFlo Vegans, and some recipe books, for example, as well. And the biggest thing, I also direct them to people who own businesses, like my favorite vegan Cuban cuisine. Like I said, I'm from South Florida, so the Cuban population and culture here is very integrated. And a lot of people feel that if they go vegan, that they are going to lose their culture. And I'm lowering right here just the heat from high to medium heat, just because the onions are caramelized enough, and I don't want them burnt. I want them toasty. They think that they can lose their culture or the food they grew up with, which is not the case. And for example, vegan Cuban cuisine is one of them. I love bangara, which is a vegan Puerto Rican food, which was super exciting for me because my birth dad is Peruvian, but my stepdad, the one who I call dad, he's of Puerto Rican descent. So I never really got to try Puerto Rican food until about 2 years ago when I met these people, because everything has lard or pork in it.
I love the sizzle in the kitchen. Lunch break live. We are with Veg Nurse Alba Mendez, and I want to say she is the SoFlo Vegan Media Manager and Coordinator. So get this, there's so much happening there in South Florida. We had Sean Russell on the other day. That was a lot of fun, and you can. Yeah, that was very cool. Hey, what's that? Let's take it away.
So this is coconut unsweetened milk. If you guys can look at this, the recipe codes for coconut. Coconut is a lot of healthy fat, which is good. Me personally, I love it. Now, I really like this brand called Pacific Foods. It will tell you here like the servings. So this whole little container is 4 cups. So it has 4 servings. Again, I already know how to measure because I've been doing this for a while with my trainer, Tori. Right now, I just put about 1 cup of this coconut milk. It's a good, healthy fat. I don't have time to eat a lot nowadays, especially with COVID happening. I have a mask, I have a face shield, I have eye guard, et cetera, et cetera. So what I love about this recipe here is that it keeps me full because of the chickpeas, and also gives me a good fat to continue to work. The hospitals are always going to be cold. I happen to be freezing half of the time. So I think this is a very good, healthy fat as well. So it gives me the energy to keep going on a regular 12-hour shift, which I no longer do really. 12 hours could be 14, 16, depending. There's not enough nurses to work right now on the floors. And I come also from an ER background. So if they don't need me in the in the cath lab where I am right now, I will go down and help in the emergency room as well. So. All right, so
what an inspiration you are for so many. let's get back to the recipe. I know you mentioned the chickpeas, that you took care of them ahead of time. You prepped them. How did you prep the chickpeas? Can you tell us real quick?
Yeah, it's very simple. For the ones who are not vegan or even plant-based, because a lot of us, we do things from scratch. If you are able to, if you have the time, you pre-soak. That is like the one thing. Nuts, you want to pre-soak them because it's much easier for the stomach to absorb and break down that nut. So chickpeas are much easier, makes them softer to cook as well. Once that, so I pre-soaked them mine for about 12 hours. I put them in at 8 o'clock at night, and then by the next morning, I just washed out the water, washed it out, and fresh water, put it to boil. It started on high until it started to boil. Then afterwards, I just lower it to like a 5 or a 4, kind of like medium heat. So it will like slowly cook. So that takes about an hour and a half. And you just want to taste the chickpea to make sure that it's nice and soft and kind of breaks apart. Ooh, kind of breaks apart in your hand like this. That's how I know.
So much fun. Now tell us what's happening with SoFlo Vegan. What's on the upswing? You all do a regular interview style. It's a podcast, am I right?
Well, yes, I am the media coordinator of SoFlo Vegans. I met Sean about 4 years ago when Fort Lauderdale Veg Fest was around. There no longer are. But I reached out to him when I saw all these people surrounding the booth. And at the time, I had been a travel nurse for a while. And I was like, I want to come and stay in South Florida. And I don't know anybody here who's vegan. And I was like, okay, do they have events? I didn't know anything, honestly. And at the time, Florida was not that vegan friendly. Right now, I'm also going to put organic curry powder. I love the curry. That's where you get that nice Indian spice. And right now, I'm still now on low heat, guys, just so you guys know, because you don't want to burn off the coconut milk I just put in. Now, this is based on my which I already know, but this about curry powder, you want to put a big, nice tablespoon. If you're not a big fan of spices or anything like that, you can always put half a spoon and then constantly taste to see how your palate is, because everybody's palate is different. Me, I love Indian spices, one of my favorite foods here. So yes, with SoFlo Vegans, we have so many different events that we do and so many things. Our main focus is to educate the community as much as possible. Sean always says that our motto is to bring South Florida as a hotspot for veganism. We all know that California is a big hotspot, maybe Austin as well. But then down here with the Latin and some of the African American and Black community, veganism is still nothing too big. Not now anymore, but back then it was. And I'm putting in now the chickpeas because it's time. So at the time, we're like, okay, how else can we bring education? And because I do speak Spanish, we started interviewing many of these healthcare professionals from, like I mentioned before, Dr. Joel Kahn. We've even interviewed Dr. Spitz. He was in the Game Changers, because we do talk about the health aspect of veganism or a whole food plant-based diet, but then the sexual aspect of our health does not even get mentioned at all. So once we saw him in the Game Changers, when he came back out in 2019, I was like, we have to talk about this, because as a cath lab nurse, one of the biggest indications that you might have a heart attack, according to the literature, between 5 to 6 years is when men start having erectile dysfunction. And I found that so fascinating. So, and this is something that me and Dr. Khan had talked about before, because since he's a cardiologist and I'm a cath lab nurse, we discussed that, but we didn't have like the urology aspect of it, which is what Dr. Aaron Spitz brings to the table. So we interviewed him, which opened my mind a lot. I really like this message that he has, that he said, even in the Game Changers, that this movie is going to open the eyes of people who love people that have penises and people who have penises. So I found that super interesting, because it's another aspect of the health benefits that having a whole food plant-based diet can do for you.
Absolutely. And if you have not seen the Game Changers, that is a movie to head on out and watch right away. You know, we are basically giving you food solutions for your health challenges. You definitely want to, be in the advice of your physician, your support team, but we've got the plant-based solutions right here. This is a curry chickpea with kale stew. And I know that you mentioned you're going to have some cauliflower rice. Oh my gosh, so exciting. What are you holding up there?
So this, I have half of another organic lemon, yellow lemon. Now this just is the zest of the lemon is going to bring out the flavors of the curry and the coconut, kind of like putting it together. So my hand grip is not that good, so I prefer to use this anyways. So you just add like half a lemon. Again, this is all up to taste, but this is up to what I like. I don't like too much zest because I feel like the flavor of the curry powder kind of leaves. And you just let it go here. Again, I'm still on low heat here and just letting all those yummy flavors together. And I'll show you what it looks like right here. And to make it a little more thicker, you are going to you're going to cook it a little bit more, like another 20 minutes or so. It's very easy to make, but I just like that very thick stew consistency. And then another thing that I put in is my good friend Nutritional Yeast.
We love Nutritional Yeast. It has all the vitamins and nutrients that we need with the B12, and all that delicious nutrition for sure. How much do you put in there?
So the Nutritional Yeast, I put in about a half a cup or so. That kind of mixes it in with the 2 to 3 cups that I have. I just looked at it again. It was 3 cups of the chickpea. And again, you can measure this as much as you want. It's up to your taste. As soon as that is in, I really like pepper. It's already in here in these little things that I love. I got this, I can't remember, I think at Home Goods. It says when we're together, it's always better. So I thought it was really cute, but I put a little bit of pepper. This is about 1/4 teaspoon that I put of pepper. I happen to love a lot of pepper. That's just me. So just watch out for that, guys, if you like it. So it doesn't get too overwhelming. And this is just a little bit of salt. Now with salt, I try to be as careful as I can. This, again, it comes from a cardiac cath lab nurse background. Typically, this is going to be 1 teaspoon, but I like things low in salt. That's just my personal thing. And again, this is to taste. Whatever you like, that will be up to you. This is for you, for your palate. And I'm going to answer your question now in regards to the cauliflower. I am of mixed heritage. I am a Latin Asian. My family comes from Guangzhou in China. I love rice. However, because I am right now in the process of losing weight, Tori says you need to have a different option because it has too many carbs. So the next option, I was like researching, I was like, what can I do? Because I love rice. We put rice in literally everything. So I came across this one. This store is called Sprouts. We have a couple of them down here in South Florida, which I absolutely love them. They have organic produce at half the price, like at Whole Foods, for example, or other health food stores. So I go there all the time and they have their own brand. And this happens to be organic rice cauliflower that has no flavor. So if you look at the ingredients, it just says organic cauliflower with a little bit of sea salt, and that's it. So you can put in whatever you want. And for example, the serving size is like a 3/4 cup. The carbs is 3 grams. So I can eat this whole thing and still not even reach 10 grams of carbs for the day. So this is amazing. This has been a godsend for me.
Yes, amazing, amazing. We have a couple more questions here. I definitely want to bring in the questions while that is just stewing up. Now, what do you find as far as salt? Do you find that you limit the salt? What is your guide when it comes to your patients on salt? Take it away.
So here's the thing. I'm not a recovery nurse, so I don't get to spend a lot of time with my patients because our focus is to make sure that we get, okay, so let me start from the beginning. When you come in with a heart attack, let's say that you came into the hospital. I say, hey, I am so-and-so. I check your armband to make sure that I have the right person. We put you on the table. And then the technologist, along with the fellow nurse, we make sure that you are prepped in time for the doctor because we only have 60 minutes to make sure that we can get in there because once your heart muscle dies, that's it. It's very hard to get it back. So it's not like I have time for conversations. It's typically afterwards. So what I say typically is that if you're eating highly processed foods, that has even more salt than just what I just put here in my pot. So that's a little bit different. Everything, I don't even use the word moderation because I really hate that word. moderation because everybody's idea of moderation is different. I go based on more on the evidence of what I have in my hand. Like if you're eating a lot of McDonald's, for example, that literally has sugar and processed and salt in every meal that you have. So I'd be like, can you just, instead of going there twice a week, why don't you just go once, type of situation.
Yes. All right. We've got the kale happening here. Wow. Look at that. That's the most beautiful kale stem there. Kale leaves.
This is the same place that I get them from Sprouts. I really like them.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't use even a knife. I just use in my own hand. And this goes typically at the end because if you want raw kale, fine. You can just put it on top. But this recipe doesn't call for raw kale. It doesn't taste good, at least in my opinion. So I try to put it towards the end that it at least doesn't look like a big soggy mess afterwards. And I've taken out all the nutrients out of it. Okay. Cooking vegetables like this or green leafy veggies, you will lose some of the nutrients.
Got it. All right, so let's see. Let's do a quick review of what is in the pot. I saw onions go in there, a little bit of oil, garlic, and then what was next? Was it the nutritional yeast?
We have nutritional yeast right here, and then my good friend coconut milk.
Yes, yum. Now, do you batch this and then you keep it in your refrigerator, or do you freeze it?
No, I freeze it. So I have these little tapper, like this glass tappers that I do. So that's when I do use my measuring cup to make sure that I have a cup of whatever I'm going to need for that day, and everything gets frozen. So if you look at my freezer, not today because I'm actually off. I don't go back to work until Monday. So Sunday's going to be my prep day. You're going to see a lot of tappers stocked up against each other that I just unfreeze, defrost, put it in the refrigerator for the next day, and just put it in my lunchbox and go to work. That's it.
Wow, this is great. Everybody take note, especially those of you that are getting back to being outdoor, out of the home. And it's great, even if you're in the home and you're working, you're busy. Oh my goodness, maybe you're tired at the end of the day. You've got your family. Pull it out of the freezer ahead of time and get to work on, making just simply easy, warm it up. So yeah. I'm loving this recipe. So the savory, I bet it's savory and sweet, a little bit of sweet, right? With the coconut?
Tiny little bit sweet, but I use mine as unsweetened.
Unsweetened.
Yes, very unsweetened. This is just plain original plant-based, but that's it. And again, because I don't like the sugar, typically most of these have white sugar. And I don't do sugar at all. Right now, we are sticking with a lot of stevia. I can't even do agave because I am in the process of losing right now. And again, learning from Tori has opened my eyes a lot of what we put in. And with the sweeteners, like agave, for example, 1 tablespoon of agave, it has 16 grams of carbs. And I'm like, crap, I'm not going to waste 16 grams on something else when I can have something else for lunch or maybe an extra slice of bread type of situation. So that has been a big game changer for me. But stevia has 0, the liquid form. So at least I can still have tea. Asia, I am the stereotypical Asian that I go through tea like there's no tomorrow. I need tea in my life. Or any other type of drink that I might want. So that has helped me so much.
All right.
So we're almost done with this. Now, if you are cutting carbs or anything like that, but if you have rice, then obviously the rice can go. I happen to like the juice on top of the rice, and I'm using the air quotes, but with the rice cauliflower, this is frozen. So I just measure out the measurements. I put it in a pan right here. I don't use oil because since this is already wet, I'm just trying to warm it up to have a warm meal. And that'll be the end of that. And I just put it in a nice little plate, and here we go.
Amazing. Can we see the contents a little closer? We would love it. And we're going to let you go on with your day next. Oh, yeah, with a little high. Oh, yes. Oh, wow.
So you see that pretty yellow color? It's one of my favorites, which I really, really like.
Amazing. Wait, I just realized somehow I missed the curry. That went in, obviously.
Yep. Organic curry that I found. Again, all of this is from Sprouts. I do my shopping there, and I do want to mention that since this is the end, I'm putting in the kale now. This is just 1 leaf of kale. mentioning that I am currently single. The only person that lives with me is my little dog. She's also a vegan, but she's very little. She's a little chihuahua. And I typically just spend about $150 every 2 weeks on food. And that is like the organic produce between vegetables and fruits. And because I buy seasonal, that's another thing that I learned from another friend of mine. And she happens to be on the committee of SoFlo, Jackie Tarleton. She owns a company called The Plant Chicks with her business partner, Marcia. And they taught me about that particular thing of how to shop seasonally so I'm not wasting food. And because of the nature of my job, I freeze a lot. So any fruit that comes into my apartment, I freeze, or I cut it up and freeze it so it doesn't spoil and I'm not constantly having to buy. So for me, every 2 weeks, I just spend $150, and that's for me buying extra. So I don't have to go shopping so much because I do work a lot, unfortunately. Again, there's not a lot of us nurses to work, and I am asked to work extra a lot.
Well, you are not only phenomenal at your job, you're incredible in the kitchen as well. I'm just going to go through a couple of things that were brought up through here. Tori Washington is Alba's trainer. We love Tori. Check him out at tori.washington on Instagram. You can find him all over. He's an incredible trainer. He's got great content, free content, as well as you can connect with him and get busy working out. Coconut milk is so healthy, which you brought to the table today as well. Just want to remind everybody, get your coconut milk out and get that unsweetened, because you can always measure out what the sweetness you want in there. Also, watch the Game Changers film. We talked about some ways of which you can have some health in the bedroom by watching the Game Changers and going plant-based. And you can find Alba at the Veg, it's called the Veg Nurse, at the Veg_Nurse. That's on Instagram. Where can they find you in the other places of social media? Where would you recommend?
Same thing. You can find me under SoFlo Vegans. Or,
yes.
If you want to email me, I'm at contact@thevegnurse.com. And don't let Tori fool you. That little smile of his, no. The guy doesn't care that I'm a good friend of his. He's like, no, go, go, go. Yesterday alone was killer. I'm still in pain.
You're such an inspiration. Thank you so much for coming on with us. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll head on over to janeunchained.com for the recipe, photos, and more, and a little story about Alba as well. Thanks, everybody, for checking in and watching with us on a daily, 12:30 live every single day, Pacific time. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.